Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great episode here at Chidera's Corner. It is your girl, Chidera. That's me, obviously. And today we are back again with another episode. Today's topic, we are talking about unlocking the path of financial freedom for the Africans in the diaspora. Now, this is part two, follow up with the amazing investment strategist who will be joining us shortly. Paul, he was talking to us in one of our previous episodes about investments for entrepreneurs, how to grow wealth, how to budget, and things of that sort. So he's also going to be joining us any moment from now. Hey, Paul.
Hi, sir. Hello,
Thank you so
viewers.
much. Yes. Thank you so much for your patience as we were trying to get together some technical issues earlier. But yeah, today again, we're talking about unlocking the path of financial independence for our fellow African brothers and African sisters here in the diaspora. Not that we're forgetting those in the motherland, right? But we need to get our stuff set here so that we can have value to add to our friends and families in the motherland, right?
Absolutely. I agree with you.
Yeah. So let's begin with how can Africans here in the diaspora effectively manage their finances to achieve financial independence or independence overall?
All right. Okay. So, thank you so much for the opportunity, Chidera, for listeners and viewers who have taken some time off their busy schedules to listen to this and watch this episode. For me, being passionate about the African community stems from the fact that I am African by birth. I was raised in Africa a little bit before I moved to the US, but I pretty much moved around a little bit from the UK and then eventually found myself here. Now, one thing that I see is there's a huge gap between Africans in the diaspora, right, and the reality on the ground. Now, this is what I mean. A lot of us had certain orientations back home, and then we brought those orientations here, and then we are living with those orientations, forgetting that this is a different environment that requires different ways of doing things. A lot of us are still living in the past as far as finances are concerned. Now, let me give you a classical example. What I tell people is in the US or the developed economies, it could be Europe or the US or anywhere, your personal finances are an essential part of who you become, how you manage your personal finances, how you unlock wealth. I mean, what kind of strategies, what kind of plans you put in place are an essential part of who really you become, right? Unlike back home, a lot of us, there's no credit system back home. People, there's no a mortgage. Our mortgage systems are not efficient like the mortgage systems we have here. Back home, those who have mortgages are only just 1% of the total population. These are people who work in the banks, in the oil industry. They have the privilege of, so a lot of us don't really understand how mortgages work. And then we come here forgetting that here, you cannot live in this country without having some knowledge about personal finances. Because if you want a credit card, you need some basic knowledge about credit card. If you want to buy a home, you need some strategies, you need some basic information on how to buy a home. You need to put your finances in order, right? Yeah. So now the question is, how don't you close that gap? I guess that is where we are now and why we are trying to have this conversation. Now, this is what I would say. A lot of us individually, we are doing well. People are doing well, but we don't have this community among ourselves, right? Somebody is doing something different. Somebody is doing something different, but we don't leverage our own strength. We don't leverage on how we can, take advantage of, things that are happening around us. Very essential. Absolutely. So this is what I would say. We have to start by building that community among ourselves. We have to understand that we don't have a community. We don't have a practical community, if I want to put it down. There's a community, which is the African community here, but we don't have a working community. In other words, a practical community that would, support us and achieve that. Now, if you look at, there's a group of people that I don't want to mention their name because of what is happening, the geopolitical problems having around us. But this group of people, right? I quite remember we did a research back in college, and this group of people just occupy just a little bit below less than 1% of the world population. Yet, if you want to talk about, they occupy about 25% of the world's billionaires and millionaires we have. Virtually every top US large cap organization, it's owned by this group of people. They are very influential, and some of you that are smart will know the kind of the group.
Right.
You know what? They leverage so much on togetherness. They leverage so much on community. They don't do anything outside their community. They premise everything they do within the community. So I think we have to start seeing ourselves in that light. We have to start doing things within the community. If I need an expert in finance, Paul is there, right? Yeah. Why do I have to go outside the community? I need to talk to Paul. And I guess that's why we're having this conversation. If I need a lawyer, I have to look for somebody within the community, right? If I need somebody, I need to look within the community. That is how we can build wealth, and the wealth stays in that community. Listen, any wealth that goes outside the community, that community does not have a future. I mean, just look at times. Look at times. Go back to history and look at times. Any wealth that stays within the community, I mean, that's exactly that community will stand the test of time and then grow over time. Now, so as I was saying, a lot of us bring that African mentality here, and we do things the same way. We don't plan our finances well within the community. We don't educate ourselves. Let me give you an example. I know some Africans who move here, and guess what? Already people have started telling them, "Oh, don't take credit card. Credit card is not good. Credit card is, you don't take credit card." Yeah. And then I ask, where do you get this mindset from? They said, "Well, somebody said I shouldn't take credit card." And I ask you, credit card, it can be a tool in your hand, which is good. And at the same time, it can be a tool in your hand which will lead to distraction. Right. Depends on where you want to stand. Do you want to stand at where you use it to do things and then grow your business and then grow yourself, or you want to be at the other end? So you decide where you want to be depending on how you use a credit card, right? But credit card is good. I mean, on the general terms, I would say it is good. It affords you a leverage. I mean, how do you buy a house if you don't have a credit score? How do you do if you don't? And then they have this mindset, they will come and then they don't have a credit score. Now they are ready to buy a house. They have to wait to have a credit history. They have to wait to have a credit score, to be able to buy. So education is very important. You need to get the right education within the community, get closer to people, right? That is how you start the path of financial freedom as an African who just moved here, right? You need to get education, get the right people around you. I mean, Chidera is there. You can ask her. I mean, as far as anything that has to do with investment and all that, I mean, she has the right contact. She'll get you to the right people who would help you. So we need to start building the community. We need to get the right education among ourselves. We need to ask the right questions. We need to build each other. And we can only do that when we see ourselves as a community.
I love the keyword that you have been mentioning over and over, and that is the concept of community, a communal environment. And I think that's something that as a people, unfortunately, we do lack.
Yep.
And if I could, I remember just reflecting on an episode of, I forgot that guy, he does like interviews such as this. And he had Cat Williams. I don't know if you remember a moment in Instagram, Cat Williams was going crazy. Like it was his name. Right. He was on that show, Sean somebody, I don't know. So now this African guy, Nigerian American comedian, sorry. Jeffrey or Godfrey. You know Godfrey?
No.
He creates a lot of great content on Instagram, very funny on social media. And he's also a comedian. And I got the pleasure, or had the pleasure to, see one of his live sets in DC at Improv or something, DC. And in the interview that he had with this guy online, he was saying how Black people in general, all across Africa, America, Europe, and Caribbeans, we are the most ununified group of people. And he was mentioning a story, and if I can just summarize the story in a nutshell, a drug dealer, a Black drug dealer, or a Black guy was in contact with like the Chinese mafia. And you know what's crazy? You've heard of the Italian mafia.
Yeah.
We know about the Irish mafias.
Exactly.
We know about all every ethnic group has a mafia.
The mafia,
Even Indian mafias. But we don't even have, as Black people. He said something that, and it was like a drop the mic moment. He said Black people cannot even organize crime.
Oh my goodness.
We cannot come together to have an organized crime. Do you know how sad that is?
Absolutely.
And the Chinese mafia guy was telling the Black dude, was like, you Black people, you guys are like, everybody want to be like you, blah, 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 blah. This is a terrible accent, by the way, that I'm trying to mimic. But, he was just saying that Black people, we all tend to be the original foundational inspiration for almost all the creation on this earth. And yet, we cannot just unify. And Paul, I don't know what it is. I don't know what tribal issues that occurred, why they even occurred. As I read world history, as I read world history in high school, college, I was always trying to figure out, where did we go wrong that severed? Because when I read history, legit, off of the books now, even though they say history is his story, right? Somebody else's story. Either way, that story documents, for instance, the Igbo people and some also parts of Cameroon were really one people. It's just that a white man came and drew some border and said, hey, you guys are these people. And then Igbo for Ghana, you guys are pretty close. I think is it Togo?
Yeah, Togo, Ivory Coast and Togo.
Man, and they just drew borderlines and said, well, you guys are going to speak this language. You guys are going to, do things this way. And we just conformed, right? But before they came in, even Nigeria, right? That I think, I remember, I don't know if I can even say, it was originally termed the Niger area, right? That's originally where the Nigeria came from, because that's the area of the most prominent, right? It was the crazy documentary that I watched on the history of Nigeria. And I was baffled. But what people don't know till today, and we are still fighting the war of our forefathers, by the way, is that Nigeria was never a country in itself. We were all different nations. And they just divided us and said, yeah, you three, humongous tribes, in addition to how many hundreds and thousands of other smaller subset tribes, come together and become one. And today we are still fighting the battles of that come together and become one decades later. But I don't know what is it, do you think, is the breach? What is it that severed? And because white people have this together, like they can, for the sake of the greater good, come together, right? So, they can you have a common enemy, you come together and you mess up the common enemy, and then you can go back to war.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But why can't we do it?
Yeah.
What do you think?
So, Chidera, I want to encourage everybody. There's this YouTube, that I want to encourage everybody to go watch. It's about the world changing order. Now, that narrative will shape your understanding of how to change hands, and what are some of the causes of, the causative factors that cause power to change hands among nations, right? And one of them has to do with disunity among people, right? When there's that dysfunctional unity among people, when people are not united among themselves, right? That would translate in, losing their power to another group of people. So, Ray Dalio, he's, our godfather in investment. he said so many things about that YouTube and how even the US, I mean, if care is not taken, we will recede power to China because, I mean, we are so divided as a country now, politically, and all that is going around us. And the other powers are becoming much more united, right? They have their differences, like you said, even white folks, right? They have their differences. But if they have to face another group of people, they unite, right? So that they can face that other group of people. So I think that is something that is lacking among Africans in the diaspora. We don't understand the power of unity. We don't understand how we can do so much together. So until we rechange our mindset, until we renew our mindset constantly and understand that there is strength, there is power in unity, we have to make that conscious effort. And Chidera, must start with us. We have to start that. If you go, there's a book I also want to encourage everybody. I'm not advertising a book, but I want to, for purposes of education, I mean, there's a book which is written by the ruler of Dubai, Mohammed Al Maktoum, which is The Race of Excellence. And that book, I will encourage everybody to read that book. That book tells you everything about Dubai. Today, all of us want to go to Dubai. Right? We want to go and see beautiful things in Dubai. That book will tell you where Dubai came from, where they are currently, and where they want to go. And if you look at all these points, right? All these, there is a connecting factor, and that connecting factor is unity among them. Unity. They are very much united. Earlier on, I alluded to the fact that the most powerful community globally, right? They constitute over 25% of the world's billionaires. When you have wealth, you are powerful. You agree with me. When you are, especially in the US, right, and other places, when you have wealth, you become so powerful and control and do so many things. So we have to build that unity. That we need to do that consciously. We need to put our differences aside and say, okay, you know what? I am Ghanaian. I am from Nigeria. And these days, let me digress a little bit. I see a whole lot of irrelevant competition. Who has the best food? Who has the best days? I mean, we are just channeling our energy to. I mean, why not having a competition about who has the best innovative idea? Who among the African community will bring the nearest buzz, the nearest internet sensation in the world? Who? And then we are always having this competition about relevant things in court instead of channeling our energy and becoming much more united, right? And so for me, it has to start with renewing our mind. We missed it because we are still in our old self, right? From where we came from, our respective countries, we are still in our old self and forgetting that, we need to leverage on our unity to be able to grow as a community. I have people, because you are from a different country, they don't want to deal with you, right? Once they realize, this person is Nigerian, this person is Ghanaian, they don't want to deal with it. I want to deal with, no. We have to understand that we are Africans first before any other thing. We are African first before you are Nigerian, before we are Ghanaian, before we are anything. So we need to leverage on that, and then we need to push that agenda as Black people, doing things among ourselves, building a community to become prosper. It is rather unfortunate that we only have very few Black-owned banks, and these are even regional banks. These are even micro banks. Why can't we have banks, huge banks that will support the Black communities and grow? And for me, that's one of my visions. One of my visions is asset management across board for the Africans in the diaspora, right? So to start from that, I'm pretty much soon I'm starting educational programs on some of these things, right? How we can leverage and support each other. So yes, it has to start with a renewal of our mind. We need to put our differences aside and then see ourselves as Africans first before any other thing. That is how we can.
You know, as you just said that, I remember the acceptance speech that Burna Boy's mother had one time at some award ceremony. He said, Right. The last
Yeah,
piece that she was saying, just remember that you were Africans before you became anything else. And I
exactly.
love that. I love that parting words. And from everything you've said thus far, it seems we need to reimagine again how we see ourselves.
Yeah.
And part of this is personal development. And this is something I have a great passion for.
Mhm.
People that know me personally know Chidera has been on this personal development journey, and I am not stopping. And my personal development journey has touched in so many different areas of my life. Finance, it's
Wow.
touched my business ventures, it's
Mhm.
touched my relationship with God, and many other, facets of my life. And that's something that Africans, I think, we lack the being intentional in personal development. And then there was also a young, I forgot who it was. Was it the person, the creator of Fubu?
Mhm.
Black guy. He's on Shark Tank, the only black guy on Shark Tank. He was. I watched his. He did a show or something like this, a webinar or something of that sort, where it was on an organization called the National Society of Leadership and Success, which I am proud to say that I am a very happy member.
Oh,
I actually am an
nice.
inaugural president of NSLS at
Oh,
my alma
wow.
mater in Washington, Venice, and so he was. I was watching one of his speaker broadcasts, is what they call it, and so he was saying, I think it was him that said it, how he noticed when he went to Africa, um, two things. He noticed that the Africans had, I think he mentioned, again, I'm hoping that this is him that said it. If not,
Mhm.
I'm totally sorry. But
Mhm.
I think he mentioned that he noticed that the Africans had self esteem, but not self confidence. When Black people in America had self confidence, but not self esteem. And then you're wondering, what is the difference between the two? In summary, self esteem alludes to the kind of how you see yourself internally. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? How and it comes from what you've been taught as a child growing up. But then self-confidence is quite different. Self-confidence is that, like, I know I'm a dope golfer or I'm a dope soccer player because I've practiced this. I've put in hours of practice. So you're almost like betting on yourself because you know that you have been able to do whatever it is that you're confident in or you're expressing confidence in, right? You actually have I think he defined it as you have been able to test your ability in the market.
Mhm.
And then it brought me to really realize as Africans, a lot of us, I don't even think self esteem, we have that together. It is part of personal development, right? And it also impacts the unity piece of it. If I don't have good self esteem of myself, how can you expect me to be in unity with you?